I didn't really add anything though. I haven't really added anything tremendous. But if you are like,
I'll have more questions for you. Scott Burdick will now deliver a critique.
My name is Scott Burdick. I'm a photographic aholic. And I have tried to quit, but I just don't have the same, But, it's funny because we've had these discussions going back to 25 years when we were painting the palette and chisel together. And sometimes, I remember the discussions we'd have whether the most important thing was the final painting or the experience of the painting. I don't think we ever actually agreed on those answers. And that's why I think painting is so great, because everybody does have their own answer to what you should paint, how you should paint. And definitely Rose and I and Dan and Jeremy, Richard, we all have a different balance. Some of us don't use photographs at all. Some of us use photographs more than others. I definitely like photographs for, I think probably a lot of my favorite paintings I do are from photographs because they're subjects that I just cannot possibly ever do from life. And I paint a lot from life. I think that's the one common thing that we all share, no matter if we exclusively work from life or if we work from photographs a lot, is that we all have put in an enormous amount of time working from life. And so, I just got back, I just took a month off and painted landscapes, out west every day, doing studies. And when we're at home, we have a lot of models. A lot of those paintings aren't my favorite. I do sell the ones that come out, but they are, for me, the important part of working from a photograph and trying to make it look real. So, and for me, definitely, these are the discussions we used to have and disagree. For me, it was definitely, I love the experience of being out there and painting from life, but I also have, I think, a higher importance for myself on the final painting, trying to express what I really felt about, say, a tribe in Africa or something. And all the studies that I did, we went to Africa 7 weeks, and Sue and I, and we got donkeys and we put our camping gear and we trekked into where there was no roads and electricity, so we experienced the culture. And I just did charcoal drawings because we couldn't bring all our painting gear. And so that's the only way I have of expressing, the people dancing or the movement or the children. And so it's all of our thing. It's not really that we have a disagreement, that one is saying, you're no good if you don't use photographs, or you're no good if you do. It's our own personal thing. You see it in our work, kind of the focus of it. So, yeah. So that's something. But that's the one common thing. I think that is the biggest problem in a lot of young artists that I have in workshops and things. People will say things like, "Well, you work from photographs, right? And you did that one from photograph or whatever," and they want to skip the whole thing, life drawing, painting from life, and maybe even give it up. I see people who only work from photos, and their paintings look like photographs. We've all heard this compliment from people who are uneducated on art. I live in a tobacco farming area in North Carolina, and when people come out and I'm painting out on the spot, the biggest compliment is, "That looks like a photograph," And they don't realize you're actually trying to do something better than a photograph. Otherwise, you just take the photograph. And so, that's the perception, and you can't really do it better than a photograph unless you have worked from life. So,
well said. Now from the master, Kwan Ho.
Well, I have to say that I love technology. I can't believe it came up with this crap. It's amazing what you can do. And, the digital camera, to me, well, first of all, the camera lies, you know that. Because, okay, this is an example. If I hold up my hands like this, if you focus on this hand, right? If you focus your eye on that, what happens to this other hand? It's out of focus. It's peripheral. But if you shift your eye over here, this one's peripheral. The camera can't do that. This is go bunk and it captures everything all at once, same, equal, all the same. So first of all, it's a lie. So I know that, but I love it. So you can't rely on it. But what I use it for is when I went to the Car Ballet and did a series of paintings for a couple of years. I did that, and I try on location to do drawings and paintings and sketches. And in a day I could do 4 or 5 decent things, and I can, in a few hours, take 500 shots while the dancers are moving around. And what I realized is that there are sketches. I use them for sketches. I don't rely on them for color or value or anything other than some reference of drawing or relationship of shapes. You know, I went to Vietnam in March, and in 2 weeks, I took 11,000 photographs. And Nancy calculated I took one every minute. I was away. Well, because, you know, the last time I was there was 15 years, and I actually didn't, you know, back then they didn't have digital photography. So I hold, you know, hundreds, about 300 shots of real film. Half of it got destroyed. And I painted on location, and I could manage about a couple paintings a day. They're still much better than anything I could do from a photograph, honestly, because the values and color. But I was in this desperate thing where I knew that Vietnam was changing so fast, and I couldn't possibly sit there and painted everything I could see. So I every day got up at 6 in the morning, got on a little motor scooter driven by my niece or uncle or somebody, and we drove all over in the fields and out in the boonies, and I took photographs of everything I could see. I'm so excited, I came back and I put them up on the screen of the city, and I realized I just have about 20% of what I really experienced. But from that, I'm going to try my best to, you know, relive that, because I remember what it smelled like, I remember what it felt like, and the photograph just did not show that. But it gave me just enough to go from. So, you know, obviously to copy a photograph, you're missing the entire show. You know, you really are. And that's why when I did this one as, I had a friend go back to Vietnam and said, could you just shoot as many photographs you can for me? And he came back with hundreds. I couldn't use one. And that's because there's no heart connected to it. And I realized I could never paint from someone else's photograph, ever. You know, because there wasn't anything there. So if you could ever do paintings on the spot, get the feel of it and all of that, and take a photograph as a sketch, I think it's just an amazing tool. I mean, obviously Zorn did paintings and photograph, and you can see from his paintings, if you took a black and white scan of it, it looks like a black and white photograph of the old days. They're beautiful, and but he was a master at painting from life too, obviously. So I think of it as a wonderful tool, but like what you guys have put so well is that there's, no matter what you do, you can't disguise that mysterious spiritual connection to whatever it is you're painting. And unless you experience that, you paint it from life. For example, if I paint a still life, there's no reason to paint a photograph, obviously. And it's so much richer experience, you know. But I know that artists who, because they don't have the skill or whatever, rely on Foley on photographs, and I think they're really missing the whole beauty and the mystery of the experience of painting, obviously. So, that's
Well, I think Jeremy and I kind of got the bad end of the deal here. You guys have all said great things. It's kind of hard. You already felt it too, right? Right, after you were the third one. Well, you know, I do think that we do live in a time where there are tremendous commercial concerns. And I think that the photography is kind of at the root of that there is a tremendous pressure to produce a lot of work. And I just wonder how many people would really, that do work from life and know how to work from life and can draw, and paint. I just wonder how many of them would opt for working from a photograph as opposed to life. I mean, that would be something.
Just to make money, or?
Well, right, it's like, I mean,
if
I'm saying that I think quite often that is the motivation for using photography, is that you can turn out, you know, because the working from a photograph, it doesn't change, the wind isn't blowing, there aren't any bugs, you know, the model isn't getting tired, the flowers aren't sagging, you know, and so there is this desire to kind of work from a photograph because it's, in a sense, so much easier. You don't have to deal with life. And I think that, you know, part of the beauty and the energy, as everybody's been saying, you know, is working from life, but part of it is this kind of tussle with life. You know, that there's something that comes from that can't happen really from a photograph, and certainly you can't learn from photography. You know, you're learning from life, right? So, I mean, that's what everybody's saying. You know, this is, you know, and I just wonder, I mean, because we do have kind of unusual commercial pressures, and I just wonder how much of it, working from photography, is influenced by needing to have 40 pieces for a show or something, you know, because it certainly helps. It makes making product, and I really use that word very specifically, it makes it like product, you know. And as you say, you know, we all have, I have stacks of paintings that have, you know, gone to die, and I occasionally try to resurrect one or another, you know. But, you know, it's just, an interesting kind of a messy part of the whole thing of being an artist. It's not like every single one works out great. You know, you're learning from some don't work out, you experiment, you know, but where does the experimentation come if you don't have the opportunity to interact with life, you know, because that's kind of part of the whole, to me, an important part of the whole thing. And as you were saying, Rose, you know, it's like, why are we doing it? You know, is it just to produce a lot of paintings, you know, or is there some other motivation, you know? I mean, for me, it's to learn, and it's always been to learn. You know, it's why I do it. Yeah. It's why I do it. So.
Go to you.
You know, I think one thing that all of us, and actually everybody in the room, we have in common with our paintings is that they're really all inspired by nature, and that's where we get our ideas. And sort of, that's really what we're painting, essentially, is nature. And you know, I was fortunate to, you know, when I was a kid, after school, I just always go up into the hills or the canyons by my house. Luckily, I had that, you know, where I lived. And even now, I spend a lot of time in the mountains hiking or fishing, and you know, at the same time I'm doing that, I'm always observing. And even before I was a painter, you know, I guess we're all like visually minded people. And so even before I was painting, you know, to just, you know, just to observe really closely, like what, you know, how the waves are breaking or how the light is reflecting in the water. And so I think like, you know, painting from life, I think like, you know, was it you, Scott, that said, you know, well, I know with mine, sometimes I'll do a really crappy painting from life, and you know, sometimes it'll come out pretty decent. But it's all about that experience and spending like 2 or 3 hours or more just observing that particular light in that location. And so you know, I'm not, you know, when I do a sketch like that turns out crappy. It's not like I'm going to bring it in and use it as my color reference for a bigger painting. Even if it turns out good, I never really do that when I'm working on something in the studio. I'm always painting from memory, I guess, but it's just that spending that 2 or 3 hours or whatever it was, just observing that that particular subject, you know, gets you know, stuck in my head. Hopefully won't forget it. If I'm using photographs as reference, you know, I'm basically just painting from memory.